Hello and welcome to our CRM Best Practice Webinar. Our topic today is how dynamic processes help savvy companies accelerate digital transformation. My name is Michael Rooney. I'm the Senior Vice President and General Manager at bmponline, and I'm happy to introduce to you Rebecca Wettemann from Nucleus Research. She is VP and founding partner at Nucleus. And we are going to discuss today how being able to change business processes enable you to close the application gap within your CRM process. A couple logistics. We are going to first have Rebecca present really the theory behind the topic, and I will follow up with the practice, a little bit of a case study based on one of our customers. We will stop between the two sessions and ask questions. Actually, you'll be able to enter questions. You should see a question box up there. We'll be monitoring those, and we'll respond to a couple of them, as well as take a poll. If we don't get to your question, we will be able to contact you later, and we will follow up to answer that. So with that, we're going to get started, and thank you again for joining. Rebecca?
Thanks, Michael, and thanks, everyone, for joining today. Delighted to be here to share with you some of the research that we've been doing and experiences in looking at the best practices for maximizing return on investment from CRM. Also, some insights around what we see as the value of dynamic processes in the evolving world of CRM today. A couple of key things that I want to cover. First, to give you a little bit of background for those of you that may not be familiar with Nucleus Research, we are headquartered in Boston, working globally, a technology analyst firm focused on the value of technology. We've published more than 500 return on investment case studies over the past 15 years, and we're the only analyst firm registered with the National Association of State Boards of Accountancy, meaning that we deliver research and insights both to the business and technology decision-maker audience, but to the financial decision-maker audience as well. And so over the course of the past 15 years, we've published hundreds of case studies looking at CRM deployments, both in North America and around the world, and really seen an evolution from the traditional CRM deployment, the set it and forget it deployment, to the deployments that we see today. So what I want to talk about is a little bit of the CRM return on investment challenge. What are the challenges that organizations are facing today? Well, cloud, better user interfaces, and other capabilities have made CRM deliver faster time to value than it did just a few years ago. There are still challenges that companies face in maximizing the value that they get from their CRM investment. In fact, in looking at the data, we found that the average returns from customer relationship management deployments across sales, marketing, and customer service have increased since 2011. Back in 2011, customers were achieving $1 for every $5.60 spent. Today, that's gone up to a little over $8.70 for every dollar investment. Now, that's interesting when you consider that many companies are moving on their second or even third CRM deployment today. We'd expect them to be getting incremental and thus smaller investment. But in fact, that number is growing. At the same time, quite different from what we heard from customers just a few years ago, 73% of customers today believe that they've achieved a positive return on investment from their technology project. That said, we also find CRM buyers today have 3 times greater propensity to switch, that is, to change applications, than other traditional enterprise applications like ERP, finance, human resources, and supply chain. And as we look at the ongoing value from CRM projects over time, we find that decision makers believe that 9 out of 10 projects don't deliver maximum value. That is, while they may deliver an initial return on investment, there's still a lot of opportunity for improvement. If we think about that in context of what relationships mean and what the technology is supposed to support, whether we're thinking about relationships with family members, colleagues, customers, or partners, relations are complex. Relationship management is about how 2 or more concepts or parties are connected, and not just how they're connected in a static way, but how their states change over time, the way they interact and behave with each other on an ongoing basis. So by their nature, relationships that are often managed with the supportive technology are complex. They're interdependent, and they're dynamic. And that's in contrast to what we've seen with the traditional limitations of CRM technology. If we think about CRM projects, traditionally they have a go-live date. I develop a requirements document. The application is customized or configured to my needs. I train users, and then they start to use it. They use it on an ongoing basis. In contrast, CRM strategies evolve over time. I don't know what I don't know until I hit that go-live date, and I immediately have a new list of demands or requirements for end users and other parties. CRM projects traditionally have expert developers or consultants who come in for the beginning, work out the ideal CRM processes and workflows for their client's environment, and then leave, or on call on a costly basis should changes need to be made in the project. Unlike the project, CRM strategies involve multiple humans. Again, those complex, interdependent, and dynamic relationships that evolve as those humans' needs change. As users become more used to using the technology, see more opportunities for what they can actually accomplish, and look for ways to improve their effectiveness and productivity within the system. Traditional CRM projects require that rules be defined. In order to set up workflows, I have to understand what happens from A to B to C and what different steps are involved. Well, the rules need to be defined to really be able to maximize returns from CRM over time. Those technologies require flexibility to be able to either adjust workflows as I understand better the needs and processes of my organization, to add new products, new sales or marketing strategies, new customer service channels, or to simply better develop the user interface to drive the ultimate goal of any CRM project, productivity and effectiveness for sales, marketing, and service. So those conflicts between a traditional CRM project technology and today's CRM strategies ultimately result in a value gap. What I want to talk about a little bit today is choosing technologies and CRM strategies to help close that value gap. To take that a step further, let's talk about what we think about as the value gap with a CRM deployment. Typically, CRM projects, as we discussed, have a development period, a testing period, and a go-live date, in which case, after the fact, small changes may be made, but 90% of the application is typically expected to run as is and be effective in the user's environment. Traditional changes in a CRM project only happened over time. Typically, when I had enough budget or reached enough of a pain point, then it made sense for me to upgrade, expand, add, reconfigure, recustomize, or redeploy a CRM project. So we see this sort of stair-step path for the ability to achieve value over time. The challenge with that path is that by the nature of a one-time deployment date, the next day, I'm losing opportunities to gain new value. I'm not able to be as flexible as I need to be. And so, in fact, I'm not maximizing returns for my CRM project over time. I'm always below the value curve. So let's talk about how thinking about dynamic processes helps us maximize and increase the value we can get from existing CRM. If we think about dynamic processes, they're really about democracy, putting capabilities into the hands of the end user or the business analyst to be able to make small changes, to be able to evolve processes easily over time without the cost, disruption, and skills requirement traditionally associated with significant changes in a CRM system. They're about being more flexible to the business, so as business needs change, I can adapt more quickly to remain competitive. And they're about achieving those changes at a much smoother pace, at a much more rapid pace, and at a pace that's much less disruptive for the organization. So in fact, with dynamic processes, what I'm able to do is effectively shrink that value gap, delivering greater return for every dollar invested in my CRM project over time. While those additional dollars may be smaller and incremental, what we found is that they can deliver significant returns and drive not just bottom line savings, but top line benefits in terms of the ability to actually take advantage of new business opportunities, open new channels, improve customer service, customer engagement, and customer experience, and better engage with customers across different marketing channels. So as we think about sales, service, and marketing and dynamic processes, how can you think about your CRM environment today to determine what are the best areas where you're likely to achieve a return? Most clients that we speak to have a long laundry list of ideal things they'd like to be able to change or add to their CRM capabilities today. But everyone's budgets and resources are limited, so it's a good idea once you have that wish list to have a structured way of understanding if you're going to make changes, if you're going to exploit dynamic processes, where you're likely to get the biggest bang for your buck. When working with clients and assessing those business cases, we're looking at really gauging those top ROI opportunities. So as you think about those opportunities to make changes, to make maybe incremental investments, understanding where you're likely to get the greatest returns can help you to prioritize your business case efforts, triage budget, but also focus your adoption and deployment efforts to ensure that you get the results that you expect. So when we work with clients on this, we really look at the 5 factors that drive value. Breadth and repeatability are the most important, followed by risk, collaboration, and knowledge. And I want to talk through those each a little bit. First, breadth. The more people, applications, or processes a potential project touches, the greater the potential returns. This is really key for usability in CRM and making users not just have access to the application, but productively adopt it to be more effective in their jobs. So as you think about areas across sales, marketing, and service where you can provide more touch points, more opportunities, more ways for users to effectively adopt and access CRM data and knowledge, the greater the potential return. And breadth really goes hand in hand with repeatability. The greater the opportunities for an application to be used, the more the potential returns. In CRM, we see this in areas like integrating data across sales, service, and marketing to enable salespeople to better understand the customer services issues their customers may be facing. It also has a lot to do with mobile, being able to extend access to CRM data and information, and not just data entry, but the ability to access information and be knowledgeable in the field on a more frequent basis delivers greater potential returns. And we find that the repeatability that we get from mobile also delivers greatly more improved, accurate, and timely CRM data, which can be helpful across sales, marketing, and service. So as you think about those potential areas to leverage dynamic processes within your own organization, breadth and repeatability are great ways to gauge the ROI superstars. The third factor is risk. The greater the potential a project has to reduce risk, the larger its potential returns. We see this in particularly regulated organizations, but with dynamic processes, not only are you able to do less management by exception, which often introduces risk, but also be able to track how those processes change in a fluid way and have flexibility while at the same time a clear audit trail, which can be significant for reducing risk. The fourth factor, collaboration, is really about aiding the sharing of information and the teamwork between individuals or groups. We see this as a significant ROI opportunity as organizations become more mature across sales, marketing, and customer service processes. As we find fewer silos of information, more collaboration with collaboration tools, the ability for sales and marketing to work more closely together, the ability for service to understand and provide input back into the product and service development process. All great examples of how collaboration and increased collaboration can deliver greater returns by introducing more dynamic processes into your CRM environment. Finally, the fifth factor is knowledge. The greater the knowledge management component of a technology project, the greater the potential returns. A lot of this in the CRM space has to do with exposing more information in a meaningful way to users to make them more productive. In fact, at the last release we looked at bmponline, we saw significant opportunities to drive productivity savings simply by providing more information, more manageable, more digestible, actionable knowledge to users across sales, marketing, and customer service. So as we think about opportunities to leverage dynamic processes, that laundry list of changes that we may want to make in CRM, if you rate them in terms of these 5 key factors, breadth, repeatability, risk, collaboration, and knowledge, again, you can identify what projects are likely to be your ROI superstars, where you'll want to focus your business case and adoption efforts, and where ultimately you're likely to achieve the greatest returns. So as we think about breadth, repeatability, risk, collaboration, and knowledge in context with dynamic processes, here are a few key things to think about as you move down the road of making the case for your next CRM process change or CRM investment. A few key things to think about in terms of not just putting a business case in place to justify budget, but ensuring the time and effort that you do spend will be as effective as possible. First, expect 80-20. Expect that 80% of what you deploy today will last for some time, but the 20% will be some changes, if not significant changes, in the near future. This is a good balance of workflow structure and flexibility to enable those changes to be made as you better understand your processes once they've been automated by technology. Second, use that business case not as a framed diploma, but as an interactive roadmap to help you understand, as you get deeper into a project, what makes sense for scope creep, what may deliver more returns, and what may be things you want to relegate to another phase of the project. Use payback as your guide. We find today that most incremental CRM projects have a payback of fewer than 6 months. This enables you to take advantage of new opportunities for investment. Getting a rapid payback enables you then to reinvest that money in other areas. And certainly, given the pace of change we see, the upgrade cadence of many of the leading CRM vendors today, payback is a great way to make sure you take advantage of the latest upgrades and enhancements, but you're also ready to move forward at the next turn, at the next level of innovation that's delivered to you, and again, in maximizing the value from your CRM investment. Addressing human factors is certainly a key part of success and a key part of both adoptability, usability, and effectiveness for any CRM project. And that goes back to understand the structure around demanding both flexibility and democracy. Now, what do we mean by that? Flexibility in working with your vendor and your technology solution to make sure that it's an application that you're going to be able to adapt to your needs over time with limited cost and disruption, without having to bring in the team of consultants, without having to dramatically change or disrupt workflows, rules, or processes. In areas like customer service, where 24/7 is critically important, you want to really be able to demand that flexibility so that you can make changes while staying operational. And second, democracy is all about putting it into the hands of users and business analysts so they can view, configure, make suggestions, even make changes to those dynamic workflows and processes, again, without the cost and disruption that we've traditionally seen that have kept us from maximizing value from CRM. When we talk about human factors, perhaps the most important key to success in CRM, recognizing that as you change those processes, again, we're looking at complex interdependencies. You want to think about individual factors. How can I drive greater productivity across sales, marketing, and service? Hierarchical, providing more knowledge, data, empowerment often changes the structure and the level of hierarchy within an organization. Cultural is one that we see very important to address, particularly as we look at CRM deployments that will ask folks like sales and marketing to play nicely together. And finally, structurally, understanding the structure of your organization. What are critical processes, and where are those that can be more fluid, can be more flexible? But just to wrap up, I think we've covered a lot of ground very quickly today. Think about ongoing adaptation, those dynamic processes as being a way to close the application value gap and maximizing the returns that you get from a CRM investment. As you think about those areas where you can leverage dynamic processes, you want to gauge your opportunities and prioritize them based on those 5 factors, with breadth and repeatability being your guide. Keep in mind that payback is king, and it's not unreasonable to expect a 6-month payback from any incremental CRM effort or initiative. And finally, make sure that, again, that business case is a roadmap, not a diploma, that it becomes your guide from maximizing returns and on an ongoing basis, shrinking the application value gap. And with that, I will thank you very much for your attention. And Mike, I guess we'll open it up for questions.
Sure. Thank you very much, Rebecca. It's always valuable to get a viewpoint from somebody up above, if you will, that sees across a number of companies, a large number of companies, many industries, and certainly multiple vendors. I think we have time. We can field a couple questions. And most of these should be directed at you as we're just coming off your speech. I guess here's one right here. What's the typical ROI or payback a customer should expect from a dynamic CRM?
Sure. So return on investment is really a measure of the change that you've made. So those are hard things to compare. A company that's moving from a very manual system, moving from spreadsheets to Salesforce automation is likely to get a greater ROI than one that is making an incremental upgrade. So that's why it's really important to look at payback instead. Payback says, when do I get that money back that I spent? When can I then afford to go back in, make more investment, and achieve greater returns? So again, we say 6 months is a good payback to look for, particularly with an incremental project. If you're going longer than 6 months, you may be opening yourself up to risk that, for example, the vendor comes out with a new innovation in the next upgrade that you don't have the time, resources, funds to commit to taking advantage of, which slows you back on that application value curve. If you're going beyond 6 months, you may want to look at, is there a way for you to phase your project? Are there incremental pieces that you want to take on so you don't expose yourself to greater risk than that?
So I know your Nucleus Research really focuses on ROI and return on investment, payback. Would you consider that a differentiator between you and some of the other vendors out there or the other research firms?
You know, I think everyone's focused on value today. The difference is our focus both on case-based investigative, actually going out on auditing the numbers, and the registration with NASBA, meaning any company can come to us to get that NASBA-approved audit, if you will, of their technology project. So if CFOs get more and more involved in technology decisions and wanting to understand the value so they can compare their IT investments just like any other investment they're making in the business, I think our role has become much more interesting and top of mind for decision makers.
Great. Here's a great one. What's the biggest mistake companies make in CRM deployments? That's a loaded question.
We could talk for a long time about mistakes that are made, Michael, but I think that assuming that we're going to get it right when we start. You know, I think in the traditional old school CRM, I spent years and years on deployment, and once I went live, I had a lot of political capital invested, a lot of other capital invested too in getting users to use whatever I determined. And what we saw is between business requirements, documents, and actually getting the application out the door, there were often things lost in translation. So business users didn't get what they needed. There's less appetite for that today, but also needs to be a greater recognition that if something not perfectly right, again, 80-20, you're going to expose things the minute you introduce technology into a process or apply technology to a process that hasn't been applied before. We have great opportunities to learn and say, maybe we don't want to continue to do things the same way we did, and maybe we learn enough just in the first few weeks of go live to be able to identify significant changes that will, A, deliver more returns from CRM, but also show users that managers are listening and that the tool is a tool to drive their productivity and effectiveness and not just record keeping for the organization.
Yeah, well, I think they say about almost every system implementation, the solution is only as good as the users use it and make use of it. So I think that goes across the board, right? Mm-hmm. All right, we're going to open it up for a poll. And so you should see on your screen a question for you. what do you see causing the biggest challenges to your digital transformation? And we gave you three options. People, so people being that people don't like changing their process and adjusting how they do business or how they do their work. Systems, that systems are not able to change quickly and modify things. Or just general corporate strategy. Do you find that your company is set in its ways on how they approach the market? So we'll give you a few minutes to respond to that. Looking at the results right now, people are leading the race right now. So most people here, 57% right now. I'm still in the lead. 51% saying that people don't like to change how they do things, and the other two are closely tied. Maybe a few more votes, if you would.
You know, Michael, that goes back to those human factors that we talked about. The most important thing to remember is that the users won't use it. The ROI is always negative.
Right.
So helping people understand, we're in the place with CRM today where changes that we're making are often in the best interest of users. They're not necessarily in the old school kind of record-keeping systems of transactions. So things like mobile, creating new mobile apps, getting more apps into the field for field service, providing customer service with ways to not just be cost centers, but really be able to drive the business are great changes that can be made that can easily be pitched to users as career opportunities for them as well.
Right. I mean, I think the way it goes is there's always been change, but it seems to be accelerating now, and you need to be able to respond more quickly, and that's really the gist of this whole program here. So I'm going to stop the voting. It seems to be pretty consistent, actually. About 50% of the people are saying people are the problem, and the other two, systems versus strategy, are fairly close. Systems leading the way just a little bit. So getting back to the presentation, I'm going to close that down. So far, I have been able to navigate this system. And so we thought it would be valuable for us, BPM Online, to map this to a case related to one of our clients. And basically how quickly you can adapt customer-facing processes in response to rapidly changing business environments. So BPM Online is the producer and deliverer of process-driven CRM. And what that really allows the user to do is gain the agility to change processes in the CRM faster than ever. Also with our platform, it allows you to align marketing, sales, and services on a single CRM platform. So looking at a case, this is one of our clients, Armtech. They happen to be a wholesale distributor of automotive parts, both commercial vehicles as well as passenger. About 5,000 plus employees, 250,000 items in their portfolio, so a big catalog, and covering 250 some odd brands. So a decision was made, very simple strategy decision. Traditionally, they sold to large commercial vendors, and they've made a decision that they're going to move into the SMB market, as a lot of their products are applicable there as well. And so, the trickle-down effect of that caused a change in sales, marketing, and services. And we're going to walk through just some of the things that they had to adjust. So they brought on a new VP of SMB sales, who, of course, says as he's coming in the door, I'm very excited to bring Armtech into the SMB market. And the first thing, hit the wrong button. There we go. First thing he realizes is that his traditional sales process, so they are already a BPM Online user and they have a built-in automated sales process, but you will notice that it had 9 some odd steps. And in the SMB market, a lot of them just don't make sense. So with BPM Online, he is able to identify particular steps, maybe qualification or formal, proposal step, and basically just simply click and remove some of those steps, therefore streamlining the process. Right? So now he's developed an SMB process specific, and it should be noted that their traditional corporate long sale process, if you will, still exists. And so the ability to have multiple processes that get triggered based on product, customer, geography, whatever, can coexist within the system and still automate those different processes. So the other thing he identified was that with SMB, the negotiation stage is going to be probably a little simpler. He's also going to have to bring on a whole bunch of new sales folks, more feet on the street to approach all those different markets. The system allows him to actually put in negotiation hints or tips, if you will, and as the process or the opportunity goes through the process, that new rep will get presented with, hey, these are your best next steps to take. Also, in the negotiations, you should offer them, hey, early payment gives you 10% discount, or whatever it might be. Additionally, he realizes that the negotiation itself won't be in a boardroom across a table, but more likely just on a phone call. And so with a simple click, he is able to swap out that on-site negotiation meeting with a simple call. So now his sales negotiation sub-process has been updated and ready to go. Very simply modified. The other thing he realizes is I'm going to have all these new sales folks. They're going to be in the field, and I'd like to leverage guided selling in a remote model. And so with BPM Online, you can set a set of actions for that field salesperson to take on. So it's as simple as identifying the actions you'd like to be included and in what order. And when that rep is in front of the client on a visit, and if you look at this remote or mobile app that we have here, it's on a tablet, he has the ability to have his calendar, if you will, with his different up-and-coming visits. And while he's at the visit, he will get presented with however many number of actions you would like to direct him to. Those could also be contingent on what product he's presenting and what type of customer he's visiting. Basically, as they get on site, they can click a button. It will actually take a GPS stamp and timestamp of the visit. And as he clicks through the process, presenting new products, taking an order, etc., it can follow the process and timestamp each of them. What this allows us to do is not just be Big Brother, but also capture that and accumulate that and realize the efficiency of the process. So maybe one of the steps that we've asked them to do is really wasting a lot of time, and we can streamline those. Another thing that the VP of Sales realizes is that with SMB, the leads that he's gaining are there's a much higher volume. They come from different sources. They are different types. And he needs the ability to track them, sort them, filter them, and view them to better manage how they're distributed to his reps. So as you see here, we can certainly get a list view, and we can filter those and sort them however we want. But at BPM Online, we're big believers in live graphic displays of data in dashboards. And so we give the ability of that end user, that VP of Sales, or even the sales rep themselves, to design their own dashboards. So you basically pick the type of element you want. In this case, it's a pie chart. You tell it where you want it placed on your dashboard. You choose as many elements as you'd like, really, design the size and layout, and bang, you have a dashboard, live dashboard. So as it's getting fed, in this case, with incoming leads, he can tell what channel, what source, and what type of lead is being generated, and how they're getting handled and how they're getting responded to. So a little bit on sales there. A couple of things that come out of some research that I've read recently. One report actually said that 30% greater profits come out of companies that are using sales processes. Another one, actually the Harvard Business Review, talked about an 18% difference in revenue growth between companies that define formal sales processes and companies that don't. So any of you who've been in, VP of Sales or running a sales team, I think that's pretty self-evident. So taking a look at the changes, again, a simple change in strategy. We're going to go after a different market, trickles down to sales, marketing, and services. So we're looking at the marketing side of things, and as they bring in a new marketing associate, she realizes that the campaign marketing that we've been doing for our enterprise large companies is going to be quite a bit different. Really, the entry point for those campaigns are going to be different. She's going to leverage more digital marketing, bulk emails, etc., all leading to the website. So she's able to front end that same process with a landing site that initiates registration and then flows into what was already there as a campaign. And again, both of those processes can coexist within the system, and depending on the type of client you're going after, a different audience can be sent to that. She also needs to update her collateral. So she has corporate level, large scale commercial collateral, and with the content formatter that we have, content designer that we have within the system, she's able to, with a couple clicks, change the view, change the content, add an appropriate discount banner, and then use this to launch within her email campaigns. Additionally, she's going to want a specific landing page on the site for that particular opportunity, that particular campaign. So she can easily design that. The system allows you to automatically integrate the data. And so in this case, herself, not deploying or employing IT or a third-party vendor like ourselves or consultant, she's able to set up what data needs to be captured, what defaults should go into fields they don't fill into, and then as they run the campaign, then capture all those leads and segment them by campaign, by channel, pretty much whatever data she's decided to collect. So again, on the marketing side of things. So moving to customer service. Again, very different look and feel for customer service for our clients, coming from large companies that had kind of high-touch individual customer service reps that handled them, to higher volume of single individual small business contacts. Based on that, they made the decision to employ an outsourced contact center. And so our new VP of Sales for this group is tasked with merging that contact center capability with traditional customer service. So in looking at her original customer service process, she realizes that whereas their traditional clients, they would go out and investigate things on site based on the value of that client. With these small businesses, most likely they're just going to be calling into the call center, and it's going to be not required to go out. So again, a couple clicks, she changes the process, she relabels this, and it coexists with their traditional process. The other thing she needs to do is add that outsourcing organization, if you will, or division to their organizational chart. We need to give them access to the system so that they can be part of the process. And so with a couple clicks, we can actually add them as a separate division. We put in their employees with their roles and tasks. And this allows us to set separate permissions and access rights for that particular group. So while they're included in access to the system, they have a limited view and access, and certainly not the same ability to make changes. So we can limit the access to particular objects, or even down to the field level security. The other service level thing that they decided to do for this outsourced call center was to set up a separate queue. So when I say queue, I mean a queue of cases. So which case do I take next? Internally for their traditional business, because they had individual reps who had relationships with certain companies and expertise in certain products, they would allow that rep to see their entire queue, if you will. So let's say they had 20 cases in their queue. They could jump down to case 7 and say, oh, well, I know Joe, and I've worked with him yesterday, so I'm going to pull that case first. The reality is, with their call center that's being outsourced, they don't want those agents to be able to jump from one item in the queue to the next. They want them simply to go based on the priority that they've set up in the system based on their business rules. Business rules might be, the value of the opportunity, the technology that's involved, or the components, the parts that's involved, the frequency or loyalty of that customer, whatever business rules that they want to set up. But the idea is when the agent in the outsourced call center looks at their agent desktop, which is what you see here, they're only going to see a single case, and that's the next prioritized case for them. And so in that left-hand column, if you had an open queue, they'd see a whole bunch of cases. In this case, we've created what's called a blind queue. It shows them, here's the next case for you to pick up. They click on it and start working on it. A couple other things to point out in this interface. And again, adoption being a big success factor to any solution, we want to make the interface as usable and friendly and beneficial to the end user as possible. So in this case, we have a one-stop shop, a one-screen space for the agent's home. They have their cases. In the middle, you see our social media or chat function. This is accessible throughout the platform. So sales, marketing, service, wherever you are, you can use the chat function to speak with other employees. You can set up separate threads that are tied to certain accounts, certain products, whatever you want. And then thirdly, on the right, we've used our dashboard capability for a little bit of gamification and KPI measuring. And so the agent can see how many cases are in their queue, even though they can't see all of them. They know how many are coming up, how many they've processed, the time, the average time to process, etc. And so you can see very quickly, even though that decision affected a bunch of different processes, having a process-driven CRM like BPM Online gives you the ability to, in a very agile manner, change processes, edit them, make those adjustments so that they can bring that piece of business on board quickly. And, this picture just represents the board who's looking at the results and everybody is happy and successful. So that brings us to the end of the presentation, and really this is the point of the day. The only constant is change, and as I said, change seems to be accelerating at this time. And to Rebecca's point, to be able to close that application gap, you need to be able to make changes as agilely as possible to keep pace with the change in the marketplace. So I guess we'll go to a couple questions. Right, and so the first one here, is there an area, this is a good question, is there an area, customer service, sales, or marketing, where dynamic processes are most important and impactful? So Rebecca, what's your opinion on that?
I think that's changed. What we see change significantly over the past couple of years, where we see the highest priority now on that dynamic processes being in the customer service area, where sales and marketing will be a strategy, and there may be a pilot group that can be more agile and more flexible in the way they introduce change. It's today really being able to delegate to those customer service agents and customer service managers, traditionally the most hard-coded, if you will, part of the whole CRM environment, introducing that flexibility in those dynamic processes to take advantage of things like new channels, new communication channels, or ways that there are certain things about product or service issues may be trending. Introducing that flexibility, that democracy into the customer service queue seems to be a high priority for a lot of customers today.
Yeah, so we actually haven't talked about omni-channel much at all, which comes up an awful lot today in our industry. But certainly customer service, we can't count on, or you can't count on your customer communicating with you in any given fashion. Or if you do, you're limiting yourself. So being able for somebody to, Facebook in a question for customer service and respond on mobile and the web is certainly kind of a table stakes, if you will. In BPM Online, actually, you're referring to, so many different types of customer processes. So not only do they need to be agile, but you should have the ability to have a library of them. So when a certain request comes in, if it's advisory versus product issue versus whatever, it can automatically queue up the right process and walk it down either to the right resources or down the right path. So another question here. What is the most strategic thing to remember when developing your CRM program? The most strategic thing.
Well, I would say there are two things. There's the cold-hearted CFO answer, which is top line or bottom line. I've got to impact one or the other. But the reality is that means impacting users, and that means putting technology into the hands of users in a way that they can either increase efficiency, increase productivity, increase profitability, increase the top line, or reduce costs, increase efficiency, reduce overhead on the bottom line. And I think what we're seeing more and more in CRM is companies are recognized that being able to deliver these dynamic processes to the users who are actually in the trenches means they can often make some pretty smart decisions about how they can impact both top and bottom line change.
Yeah, I think historically CRM, having been a sales guy and a VP of sales and whatnot, CRM a lot of times from the sales trenches was seen as, oh, that's just a reporting tool and a way to keep track of us. And to be able to turn that system into, no, this is really a benefit to you. So having a process-driven system, the idea is to automate the recurring, redundant, busy work, if you will, and allow the sales reps out there to focus on selling, on negotiating, on doing deals, knowing that the system has their back, so to speak, and will drive that opportunity through the process. So turning it from a management tool to an efficiency tool, a productivity tool, I think, if that is a strategic, approach, I think that might be more.
Well, and two, just scaling those best practices. So if I could have everybody do what my A people do, be they marketing, sales, or customer service people, being able to put those key components, not overriding processes, but the best practices of those key people being able to scale in a dynamic way can boost the productivity of an entire group.
Great example, because the case you used, if I remember correctly, that crazy return on investment was based on them modeling their process after their rock star salesperson, and then having everybody else follow that process. The other thing, I would see as a benefit is bringing in new people. You're showing them, here is a proven successful process. Follow this, and you will be successful, right? I think we have time for a couple more. Is the process engine in BPM Online sold for an additional cost? So does it cost extra to have the BPM engine? Absolutely not. It's the foundation of our platform. A lot of times people will ask, were you in the CRM market first and then added BPM, or BPM first and added CRM? Neither of those are the case. That was the vision of the company from the get-go, that the value to the marketplace of a process-driven CRM was all in one. And so it wasn't bolted on. It was built as part of the original vision, and it's not an additional cost. Another question, what are the key questions I should ask a vendor to determine if their solution supports dynamic processes?
Ongoing consulting, and how much training does it take for a developer? We find today that if users can't do it themselves, even if I need a developer, I often get a bottleneck in terms of actually being able to make things happen. So understanding how many hours of training it takes for someone to get the baseline ability to develop and make changes is a good line, but also what's the reality for consulting projects? Big consulting projects up front often mean a lot of smaller consulting projects along the way if I need to make significant changes. So those are two key cost buckets that can give you a good idea of how dynamic, how flexible the application actually is.
Yeah, so BPM Online, we certainly offer out-of-the-box best practice processes, and a lot of our clients will use them initially just as is. Matter of fact, we internally use the corporate sales process unchanged. But then most customers will identify modifications that would make them more efficient, and the end users or head of sales or whoever can easily go in and make those changes. Additionally, we realize that while our process designer is very powerful, some users just don't have the time or energy to use it. And we developed a process wizard, which is literally point and click, drag and drop. So if a rep, I always look at sales, unfortunately, but if a rep wanted to build their own little email campaign, they can point and click and create a campaign, a process, and launch it. I think we have time for probably one, maybe two more. Why can't a standard CRM system bring me the same benefits as the process-driven one? I can answer, but I'm a little biased, so maybe I'll give my answer, and Rebecca can either support or deny it. In my mind, and again, I'll look at sales because that's my background. You can have a sales methodology and process across the company, but it is only as good in a standard CRM. It's really only as good as your reps use it and stay by it. So if you have 100 reps and the system says, oh, here are your stages for your sales process, and I'm counting on them moving that opportunity through those stages with no necessary gates, my consistency of results of how each of those opportunities and how each rep moves those through is not very predictable. With a process-driven system where the system actually automates the move from stage to stage based on the actions that it pushes towards the rep, I know that every rep out there, 100, 500, how many of them there are, have followed that process. And so when they tell me something's at proposal stage or it's at negotiation stage, I can be very comfortable that it is.
I would just add to that point, Michael, I think the 90s were all about getting data out of people. 2000s were all about tracking interactions. Moving forward, it's really all about automating. It's about driving those things forward so that I can simplify things down for the end user. The dark concept that we talk about is always about simplify, focus, and automate. The more I can automate with a process, the more I can free up time for people to think more strategically, spend more time selling, spend more time developing clever marketing campaigns, and spend more time engaging with customers.
Yeah, I mean, that goes right down the path of, and I know I didn't feed that to you, but it goes right down the path of our future vision for the product, and that's intelligent business processes. So we're in the world of big data now and the Internet of Things, and so we're getting fed, the system's getting fed or can be fed with all this various data. And the idea is allowing the system to make use of that and offer the next best step in an intelligent move in the process is where the real value is. And so we feel at bmponline that's going to be the future productivity game, right?
Absolutely.
I think we are just about up on it. Will the slides be available to attendees after the webinar? I'm sure we can make that happen. If you want to shoot us an email, actually, if I go to the next slide, I believe, after that. There we go. There is our information. So you can definitely give us a call or shoot us an email, and we would be happy to send you back a copy of the slides. I can guarantee you'll get a call, follow-up to the webinar to ask your opinion of it. And if you have further questions or interest in the product or interest in Nucleus, we'd love to hear from you. And with that, I think we are right about on time. Thank you again very much for attending. We had quite a big crowd out there. Really happy to have the interest. Have a great rest of the day. Bye.